Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thought Crime Workshop. Great to have you here with me. At the Thought Crime Workshop, we believe that to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from. So, human evolution has been going on for a long, long time, and the latest chapter in the evolution of humanity is player versus player battle royale games like Fortnite. You might have heard of it. They are basically, say, 100 players all get dropped into a map, and we all try to kill each other, and the winner is the last man standing. They're good fun. I have to put my hand up right away and admit that I do play the game casually, and I quite enjoy pitting my old neural plasticity up against 13-year-old vipers, and I usually end up on the wrong end of the snake. But I have my Art of War book in my lap while I'm playing, and I've managed 50 solo wins from 1,000 odd starts. And I guess that just says that if you have the right tactics, sometimes you can outsmart and outplay a bigger and better equipped opponent and still come away with the victory. So while playing the game, I've noticed quite a few interesting symbolisms. And as you're probably aware, long before we had complex verbal communication, we did have a fairly descriptive and competent pictorial symbolism to communicate ideas. And that has left us with an innate sense for symbolism. It's probably down there in the reptilian brain areas. And of course, we now have complex verbal communication, but we haven't lost our usage of symbolism. If anything, the symbolism is now intertwined with the verbal communication, and we use language to create the symbolisms in each other's minds rather than painting them on a cave wall or building a piazza fountain. And the verbal symbology is much more potent than pictorial symbology. These days, the influence of symbolism that is around us is concealed by the more powerful verbal picture projections into each other's minds, but that doesn't mean that it is any less influential. The absorption of meaning through symbolism still happens, but on a mostly unconscious level. So with all that being said, let's have a look at some Fortnite symbolism I've found. It all relates to division and the balance of positive and negative forces being out of balance. We'll come back to this lovely little picture here in a moment. This season in Fortnite, they introduced a new feature, which are these henchmen. They are like two factions on the island. They have secret bases. They have guns and they will shoot you, so you have to watch out for them. The aim is very good, so if you're not paying attention, they will get you. You can see straight away the black and white there is a symbolism for division. And these two factions are called Ghost and Shadow. And as you see, the players must choose a side, whether they align with Ghost or Shadow. And so obviously there's some promotional materials been put into the game. These propaganda style posters you can see there. And here again, the choosing a faction for you to join, and choose wisely because your final choice is permanent. That's a little concerning. Leaves no room for changing your mind, does it? So here we go. This picture here was a loading screen. It coincides with the Travis Scott event. Travis Scott's a musical artist, and they did an in-game concert which players can just log into the right game for the concert, and then they can run around while the music plays, and a big holographic Travis Scott runs around the island. So they're pretty cool, very entertaining, I must admit. But straight away, the symbolism in this picture is very interesting. You can see the all-seeing eye right away in the middle there. That's the symbol for, we all probably should know that that's the symbol for insight or knowledge and wisdom. And then we have the Saturn symbology here, and Saturn has a long and interesting history of symbology in humanity. It's also referenced as a black cube in a lot of cultural media. So you can see here these two Saturns, they're splitting apart. This is cell mitosis here going on. This is the representation. Cell division, you can see, you probably can't, but look it up if you want to. Take my word, there's these telomere strands or strings here which are part of the mitosis cell division process. Something else about Saturn you can see straight away is that they have two sets of rings, and I presume that is indicating that Saturn, the power of Saturn, is in balance. Interestingly, I'll pop out here and show you a couple of Saturn references. You could go on about Saturn for hours and hours and probably days. There is a lot to know about Saturn. It's been very important. So Fortnite did their Saturn representation here in this cube, which was seasons, I think, 6, 7, and 8. He's got nicknamed Kevin the Cube by all the players. You can see it's a big glowing energy cube, much like the Tesseract. You might remember from the Marvel movies, and if players touch the cube, they get shocked and thrown out away from the cube. No real damage was done, but yeah, it still was carrying that energy power and said not to touch it. Over here, this is Nicholson's 1968 page. Thank you for your resource. I hope you don't mind me skimming through this for people. Here we go. Some Saturn or black cube symbolisms that are in our world. The Tesseract cube from there, obviously, we've said already. There's an Apple Cube store, and I'm not for one suggesting that all of these cubes are symbolic of Saturn, but it's certainly pretty suspicious when you look at the scope of it. You'll see that it's pretty hard to get away from. So here's the Twin Towers Memorial, the dice with the snake eye dots in them. That's an interesting correlation there. There it is again, the memorial, the cube at Mecca, the black cube for the Islamic faith, and then we have the Google cube. Here we go. Look, Nicki Minaj with a power cube in the video clip there, on top of the cube, being worshipped. Nissan logo, Saturn representation there, Nintendo GameCube, Ice Cube, head for Saturn with the rings of Saturn around his head. So Saturn and Cube, obviously straight away, very obvious. There's the snake eye dot again, with the cube with the dot on the top. And basically on it goes. These are all different types of movies that Saturn or the cube has been referenced in great fashion. Transformers there, 2007, the All Spark Cube. It goes on and on. There's a lot of it in life, and it's probably worth spending a little bit of time having a look at it. There's the Toyota symbol, the rings of Saturn there, all arranged in different formats. They're saying that possibly the Nike swoosh is the rings of Saturn from that angle, which is fairly convincing on that perspective. Yeah, so there's lots of cubes: Manhattan, Denmark, Australia, Santa Ana. There's cube symbol everywhere. Borg cube, passing by Saturn. There. So there's plenty of good stuff. There's that Mecha cube again. It goes on and on. So we'll step back across now to the slides and get you back here. I'm a workshop guy, so don't expect miracles here on the computer. It's about the biggest miracle is that I'm doing this at all. Okay, so we've covered the middle section there, and if you look, obviously we have symmetry on either side of the picture, and there's just the colors that change on either side. So obviously the reference is there to the black and the white, although they've used different colors to demonstrate the division, the difference. So these other figures, the next thing we should look at, these obviously some sort of spacemen floating there, but you'll notice they're disembodied, like ghostly, and you may recall there that I said the two teams were Ghost and Shadow, which are the two human forms which are disembodied. So there's a nice little correlation link there between the whole season and this Travis Scott event. You see there's a space helmet, but you could also look at that as being a bubble. Each person's in a bubble, and you can see there, are they reaching out to each other? No, I don't think so. That's the wrong hand shape for reaching out to somebody. That's pointing at each other or singling each other out or isolating each other. So there's some concerning stuff going on there, and you just wonder why you would go to this great length to symbolize the division. And okay, so the theme of the season is division, but seems to be a great length to go to reinforce uh, that theme. The only thing here in the picture that carries through as a constant are these dots, who are the same color and same position on both sides. I presume they're representative of particles of matter. They're being consistent, and there's one thing here, this yellow thread, which runs all the way through the picture, which I presume is the thread of truth, or the thread of life, or the thread of consistency and truth that runs through life. All right, so there's some interesting division symbology they've employed here this season, and it's really come about since the game became so hugely popular. Here's a couple of fun ones for you to finish up with. The Night Owl pickaxe here, which came as a pack with the burglar. They were called the jailbirds or something, or she's called jailbird. The skins, they're just uh, basically a cover, so your character looks different, looks cool while you're playing. Doesn't I don't care. I use the same skin all the time, but the kids love it. You can see that the pickaxe belongs to the burglar in the set. You buy the skin comes out and it has a glider to land on the island when you start the game, and a pickaxe to harvest your materials so you can build your forts to defend yourself in the game. Now, it's interesting here because we'll talk about the owl symbolism. As you know, it's closely linked to the all-seeing eye. It's a ancient symbol for wisdom and knowledge. It's basically the here's another one here. I'll talk about this one in a second. Basically, it's the owl of Minerva or the owl of Athena. Roman and Greek mythology, they're interchangeable and they're all reference to wisdom or knowledge. This one is the owl statue in Leeds, and in the city of Leeds is known for its owl symbolism all through town. You can follow a trail through the city and spot all the different owls as gargoyles and fence caps and things like that. They're all through town. And interestingly enough, a replica of that statue was made and given to the Queen. A nice little tiny version of it in gilded bronze there. Looks like gold, gilded bronze. So this owl, the particular color and posture, it's quite unique. I've looked at a lot of owl statues. They're all slightly different, but this one is very, very close to the one that was used in Fortnite. You can see it's a little more ornate in the feathering, and perhaps the eyes there. There's with those lines. It's almost like sunshine, isn't it, coming out of those eyes there? So cool. So the interesting thing about this, I guess, is that the burglar's tool is the Owl of Wisdom, and she's used the Owl of Wisdom to break in to the Museum of like Natural History, I guess, or Human History. There's a bust of Pallas maybe on the floor. There's a picture over here in the corner. I had a look at it. It's kind of cool. It's a copy of Starry Night by Van Gogh, but it's actually the town is the Fortnite town with the Van Gogh night sky in it, which is kind of cool, but really doesn't mean anything. I don't think. It's just interesting. So yeah, so the burglary has occurred using the Owl of Wisdom there, which is I think quite an interesting symbolism. All right. Now, here's a funny one. This is Meow Schools. He's a muscly cat character skin that you can get. You can see again the division here for the season, the Ghost or Shadow teams. When I was on a German page and Meow Schools doesn't translate. Obviously, it's a nonsense word, and these contrived words that don't really translate well into other languages. It's one of the problems with English. There's a lot of junk going on in there. And it's easy to confuse definitions and meanings because the word choice is it's exhaustive. So anyway, he's called in German he's known as sore muscles, which I thought was quite a funny way of translating meow schools, because I guess the meow sounds a bit like owl. I'm sore, maybe. It's an interesting one. So maybe that's the translation they could come up with. This guy here is pretty interesting. While I was on that German page, I found a reference to a challenge in the game. and I picked it out because I knew the challenge. It was to visit these 3 locations, one of them being this hay statue that you can see here of a person. On the German page, it says, sorry about that. On the German page, it's spelled Huemann and pronounced human. And human in German is Hayman, Hay, and it's a occupational surname reference from old times. So a Hayman was a farmer. Um, so I guess it's a pretty obvious link there. So that he's known as a human, a Hayman, and what we see here is the shape is very robotic. It's very mechanical. It doesn't look much. It's a human form, but it doesn't look like really like a human. And it's made up of basically dead nature here. We've got dead grass rolled up, packaged, processed, and stacked up to form a machine. So yeah, that's kind of a little disturbing when I think about it on that level. I hope that's just coincidence and there wasn't anything there. But usually with symbology, it's not coincidence. There usually is some kind of meaning that they're trying to impart there onto people. So there you go. There's a lot of interesting things going on in Fortnite there this season in regards to division. Fortnite was pretty plain to start with, and then as it grew in popularity, at about this, like I said, the season 6 mark, the cube turned up, which is it's a bit of an alarm bell there in terms of symbolism. And then things went a little bit quiet towards the end of the first chapter of 10 or 11 seasons, I think it was, and then there wasn't a lot going on. There was often regular events and things, and it went quiet for a long time. A lot of people were speculating about what Fortnite were planning, what they were developing, and anyway, what came out is this henchman factions with the division and choose a team. So it's a little concerning to me when I think about it like that. So, all right, well, there you go. I hope you found that interesting. I certainly do. I got my suspicions about what's going on there. It seems a little too perfect, and it just looks like in life, in society, whenever something, a person, or a business or a product becomes of a sufficient size, it just seems to be co-opted and redirected in a fashion. So there you go. Thanks, folks. I'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining me in the workshop again. Hope to see you again. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And if you'd like to get more content like this, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You can leave a small donation if you like. It would be greatly valued if you're able to. It'll help me produce more content and I can maybe make these videos more sparkly and shiny. But yeah, not sure if I really want to do that. We'll see. My PayPal is in the description below for that. And remember, folks, life is a dangerous proposition. It is dangerous for everyone. It doesn't matter how many. It doesn't matter how much you turn it into a nanny state. You can always be injured. So stay safe out there. Look after yourselves. Look after each other. I'll see you again soon.